Okay, hello everybody, I'm back. It's just a few seconds later, but for you it's probably yesterday. Um, and I decided I was just going to go ahead and tell you a little bit about the bad guys, from what I remember. Because remember, it was like about 2008 or so, or earlier, that I had this idea. Um, and I had this whole ream of notes written, handwritten, and for the life of me, can't figure out what I did with them. I'm sure they're still in here somewhere, in a box somewhere, but for the life of me, I can't figure out where they are right now. But I do remember some of it, and so it's okay because I have to rewrite some of the stuff anyways, for when I'm making the game, so that you can see the process that I go through. Okay, so I already told you about Zanzibar, who's the evil magician, not so great magician, really good con man, uh, who tried to con Max. I already told you about Max. Max is an evil character that wanted to take over Enchanted Lands. He got banned before, and now he's back. Violet Moonshadow, which is his right hand woman, you'd say, um, and um, she is an evil sorceress. She's the one that took half of Harold's magic away. Or I keep saying Harold because Harold was the halfway Harold, or Harold halfway. I forget what I call him. So now it's Henry, halfway Henry. So it's hard because I've just been doing that for years, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't because of Harry Potter, but people would see it that way. And I don't. Even if it wasn't a copyright issue, which is probably not, I could probably get away with it, but it's not good form or whatever you might say. Um, so she took half of Henry's magic away. What are some other bad guys? I already told you about Barty the gnome. Um, there's the Black Knight that loves unicorn meat, and the Black Knight is working for Max in some way. I don't remember how I had it because I had everything like written out. Um, he at least he's a bad guy at first, anyways, and then there's Red Riding Hood now. Uh, the Sierra games, the King's Quest games, were known for taking actual fairy tales and putting them into Roberta Williams put those classic characters into her game, and those things, right? Actual fairy tales. I don't have any fairy tale characters except for Red Riding Hood. The thing about Red Riding Hood is, it isn't the fact that she's some innocent little girl that is going to grandma's house and she's beset by a wolf. And in the original story, I think it's a Grimm fairy tale, where she eventually gets swallowed or whatever, and then a woodcutter comes and chops the wolf and frees them both or whatever, her and her grandma. But basically, Red Riding Hood seduces werewolves by acting all innocent and stuff, and then usually killing them to sell their furs. But Max enlists her and her grandmother to do it so he can have an army of werewolves. And there's some business with that. In fact, she ends up trying to get Kurt, our cowardly werewolf, and so that doesn't really work out. But I'll get more into that later. And then I had another dragon that's an evil dragon. I also had kind of a bad, I guess, habit of wanting to turn my characters good, because there's a secret about the Black Knight which I won't reveal right now, which might end up turning the Black Knight good, you might say. The one dragon, the bad one, it turns out he's under a spell, under Violet's control, and So I have a couple of things where I want the characters to actually they kind of turn good and stuff. So I don't know if I'll continue with that. Let's just give you a rundown. I can't remember any of the other bad characters or if there were any other ones that I thought about doing. I don't know. I just started thinking about these crazy things, and each time a thing popped up, like I was watching The Wizard of Oz, you know, the Cowardly Lion, right? I'm kind of going, why not like a cowardly werewolf? That'd be kind of funny. And then you know, what about a dwarf that doesn't look like a dwarf? Is too big to be a dwarf. So Roland came out of that, and you know, this thing just started happening where I started pulling these things out, these ideas, and I thought it'd be funny. Um, there's a deal involving the fairy god college, and actually they only usually take women because fairy godmothers are usually women, and although they never expressly forbade a fairy godfather, and at one point John has to actually get into the fairy god college, and goes through rigmarole, and there's that. So now that I am done rambling, I promise you I will actually get to actual work. I know this is going to be like a month out or whatever. You'll be watching it and going, when is he actually going to make the game? Well, excuse me. I promise you I will be actually making the game. I'm actually working towards that end. In fact, that's what I'm doing here. I'm writing some stuff in here. So usually, actually, I'm going to do what I intended to do in 2 videos ago, and we're going to go with. I'm going to look up here. Let's just use Wikipedia because it's a good kind of like a quick resource, and since it's not politics or whatever, people don't have to, you know, lie or whatever. Wikipedia is not the most trustworthy of sources, but if you're just doing it for just like general things, you know, physical things and you know, certain things, it's fine. It's actually a pretty good resource. So I'm gonna look up screenplay. Yes, I know it's the motion picture. Screenplay script. Let's see something here. Screenplay formats. Feature film. Screenwriting software, script coverage. He also. That's really not what I'm looking for, though. I know what a screenplay is, and I'm not even trying to talk specifically. Let's say 3-act structure. Maybe they'll have something in there. Act structure. There we go. Explains how the plot of the film story is composed, kind of like plays, stage drama have acts. Critics and screenwriters tend to divide films into acts, though films don't require to be physically broken down as such in reality. Okay. 3-act structure. I thought that's what I typed in, but I guess because I typed in a number. Model uses narrative fiction that divides a story into 3 parts, acts, often called setup, confrontation, resolution. Okay, the first act is usually used for exposition, establish the main characters, their relationships, the world they live in. Later, in the first act, dynamic on-screen incident occurs known as the inciting incident. Ooh, interesting. That it has its own. Oh, that's because of plot, right? Rising action. Second phase in Freytag's 5-phase structure starts with a conflict. For example, death of a character. Exciting incident is the point of the plot that begins the conflict. It is the event that catalyzes the protagonist to go into motion and to take action. Okay, so the catalyst that confronts the main character, the protagonist, whose attempts to deal with this incident lead to a second, more dramatic situation known as the first plot point, which signals the end of the first act. Ensures life will never be the same again for the protagonist to raise a dramatic question, the answer in the climax of the film, blah, 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 blah. You know, firstly, it's a game. Secondly, we're not strictly following a strict screenplay deal. So I'm kind of going inciting incident because the initial thing in the game that I'm still probably going to stick with is you're going to start with John in our world, and he's kind of got this mundane existence, and then he runs into he finds he stumbles on a convenience store which wasn't there before, that has a display for the Benny Wonky candy bar, Benny Wonky Candy Company, and the all expense paid trip to Enchanted Lands, which John has never heard of. Nobody's ever heard of, maybe, unless you're like super rich or something. And it's a display with candy bars, and if you get the silver ticket, you get to go to an all expense paid trip to Enchanted Lands. And John thinks this is great because his favorite candy bar is the Benny Wonky candy chocolate bar. And he gets it, and he manages to get the silver ticket. And then he turns around after opening it. He's outside of the store, and he turns around, and the store is gone. And he's wondering, what's going on, because he's got this ticket and he doesn't know what he's supposed to do with it. But later on, I'm not sure if it just happens to him or if he figures it out, or maybe it says something on the ticket like, one admission, you need to do this, you need to whatever. Maybe I'll make that into a puzzle, because that might be a great way to kind of start things out. So that's actually kind of our starting point. And in a sense, it's our inciting incident, but it's kind of, I don't know. It could be the inciting incident, but nah, probably not. The inciting incident is going to be, well, the inciting incident is the whole thing, really. It's the, maybe it's what they call the rising action, but basically, the events lead up to him going through the portal, and then Barty the Gnome kidnapping the princess and taking off, and then the train falling, and that's what sort of sets it all off, you might say. That's the thing that, and actually, for John's story, his inciting incident is when he finds the silver ticket and he steps through the portal. But our main character, Henry, Halfway Henry, let's just call him Halfway, because maybe that kind of sounds funnier and stuff, and better to avoid the name thing. Okay, so Halfway, he's kind of the main character of this whole story. And really, what I should have said is, I should have started from the end of the story. So basically, the end of the story, what all wraps up, is that all the bad guys, they're either not bad guys around anymore, or they're banished. Max gets banished for good, this time with no trace of Quicksilver on his presence. In fact, he gets banished to the unnexus. Maybe I'll just call it the the dark unnexus of worlds, which means basically like outer space, like outside of the nexus. So that way he's forever trapped out there, and he can never get to any realms ever again, because only the nexus has a doorway to different realms. So maybe he gets that, but they all kind of get their just desserts. And yes, I will have a large battle. It will involve the gnomes. It'll involve the dwarves on the good side. It'll involve the werewolf army. It'll involve zombified tourists, and so there'll be this big war, and the climax is actually stopping the machine from working. Is actually destroying the machine, because this machine could almost literally tear Enchanted Lands apart, tear the Nexus apart, to where nothing would be the same again. It might even tear the space-time fabric of the universe, right? I don't know if I'll go as deep as that or as, you know, as lofty as that, but what will happen is they'll destroy the machine, and then they'll fight against Max, eventually capture him and his cohorts, and banish them to the outer darkness, or we'll call it the Dark Unnexus, you know, just to be funny or to be different or whatever. So, I should actually write that down. So, okay, so we're gonna say inciting incident is where halfway brings in a young man from our world, I'll say realm, to enchanted lands, just as Princess Karen. And yeah, I'm doing it with an I on purpose. Just as Princess Karen is being abducted by Maximilian's henchman, Vardy, evil king of the gnomes. When this young man named John Thomas finds himself on a train that is spiraling out of control and falling from the sky. In the ensuing crash, John blacks out. Okay. Actually, I have this like whole intro written up, and it sounds really cool and exciting. I don't know if it would be if I made it. Maybe it would be though, because I'm always thinking of movies. I'm always thinking of the action of movies and stuff, and so maybe I'll read that to you a little bit later. Okay, so the resolution climax comes when. Actually, I should read what that about the third act. Features the resolution of the story and its subplots. The climax is the scene or sequence in which the main tensions of the story are brought to their most intense point, and the dramatic question answered, leaving the protagonist and other characters with a new sense of who they really are. And you know, that's just, it's getting out in the weeds a little bit, but climax comes when our guys, when the good guys, I guess, I don't know, halfway's team, halfway's guys, the good guys, whatever. When the good guys destroy the machine Max was building to conquer the realms, and a battle ensues when finally Max and his compatriots get captured and banned for good in the dark unnexus of worlds. Okay, so So we do have. I don't have anything like midpoints, plot points, anything like that. Let's see where we at on time. If you notice, I'm looking at the. See, I'm looking at the deal, and it's already 20 minutes, and I was never intending to do 20-minute videos. So I guess I don't know. If you have to, speed up the video. Assuming that I don't start becoming unintelligible if you put it on like 1.5 or faster. But so I will continue this in the next video.